If you are someone who wants to accomplish extraordinary things in life, I made this video for you. And I made this video because I also want to do great things, and there are some things I've picked up along the way that I think can really help. And in order to do extraordinary things, sometimes we have to operate against conventional wisdom. And this makes sense because most people don't necessarily want to do extraordinary things, nor should they, which is fine. And if that sounds dismissive to some people, I'll give an example that can hopefully illustrate. And this is a fitness channel, so I'll use a fitness example. In fitness, most people work out because they want to improve their quality of life in some way. So they can increase strength, increase muscle, possibly lose some fat, improve mobility, increase longevity, etc. And if they can learn to enjoy the process along the way, even better. And the good news is there are many ways to do that. These are very forgiving goals in the sense that you can build strength and muscle in many different ways with calisthenics, weights, resistance bands, rice bags, kettlebells. And if you want to lose weight, gain weight, maintain weight, there are many different ways you can eat to help you towards that goal. That's what most people seem to want. It's not necessarily extraordinary, but it is wonderful. But an Olympic athlete does want to do extraordinary things. They do want to push the boundaries of what we think is possible, and they do want to compete and ideally go for the gold and set records. So they'll need to train in extraordinary ways, train in very specific ways that are probably different from what most people want or need. That's it. So hopefully that does help illustrate my point. Obviously, not everyone needs or should be an Olympic athlete. It actually seems quite difficult if we were all training to be an Olympic athlete. I don't even know if we would have restaurants, which would make me sad because I like food. But I bring all this up because a lot of current culture seems to reinforce the idea, perhaps rightly so, that it's okay to not be extraordinary. It's okay to just work on being happy, pursuing happiness, and pursuing contentment. And I completely understand that point. It is totally fine. But it is also perfectly fine if you want to try to be extraordinary and you want to move and shake the world and you want to try to push the boundary of what we know is possible. So here are some things you can keep in mind. And the first point is something that I've already touched upon that you probably already know, and that is that you will have to put in some hard work. Not only that, but you will have to find a way to make the hard work sustainable and ideally enjoyable, because hard work and effort is going to be required for doing extraordinary things, unless you are a genius. By the way, I'm wearing pants. I changed into pants. Really has nothing to do with anybody being a genius, but I wanted to change into pants. But even as a genius, you will have to work hard in order to get anywhere near your maximum potential. If you think about it like this, if you are twice as talented at any given thing than another person, which is quite a bit, imagine being twice as athletic, twice as smart, twice as efficient, then you will still get the same result if you put in half the effort, depending on how you define effort and talent. But you might be fine with that. You might be fine, low effort, normal results, but we're talking about achieving extraordinary things. So ideally you would have talent and effort. And if you've never applied yourself, you might be more talented than you think. And I bring this up first because it kind of goes in the face of what we sometimes hear about not working too hard. Definitely don't try to burn out, and you are more than your work. Some people would even go so far as to say that work is a lie. And I understand where these pieces of advice come from, and I agree with a lot of the intent behind them. But it is your job, in my opinion, as someone who wants to be a high performer, to contextualize this for yourself, because they do have a point, but you can add context for your own goals. The first thing that I'll bring up is that work we often use synonymously with what we do for a living. So what we do in exchange for money in many countries. And it doesn't have to be that. Right, so part of it is the idea that workers are exploited and we don't want to put in our lives and our time, which is such a precious resource, into an entity that doesn't care about us and doesn't give anything back. I completely understand that. But when I say work, I don't necessarily mean what we do for money. So your goal, your passion, your extraordinary thing might be saving the environment. Your thing might be enacting political change in your region that can save the lives of millions and billions over time. Your thing might be to invent the most energy efficient, effective refrigerator. But when I say work towards something, it doesn't necessarily have to be employment. It's just you putting effort towards the thing that you think matters most for you. And the second thing that you may want to consider is that if you are someone who knows what you want to do with your life, if you know what you want to do for a living, sure, but also what you want to do for life's grand journey, then you are lucky, very lucky, in my opinion, because I feel a lot of people would want to work hard. They would want to spend a tremendous amount of time when they get the right call to adventure. This is what I want to do. This is what I put my effort into. This is what I feel talented and good at, and I want to do it for the rest of my life. And if you found that already, then it's kind of like finding a soulmate, and it's something that you should definitely treasure and not take for granted. But you may also want to understand that when people say don't overwork, don't burn out, these are great pieces of advice, but your threshold for overworking might be different than theirs. And if you want to put some metaphorical math into it, then a lot of people have their work time and their leisure time. And if your leisure time is your work time, because once again, if you want to be sustainable and you want to put a lot of work into this, then ideally what you're doing and your grand passion is also what you can do for money. So athletes can play for teams, chefs open their restaurants or work at a restaurant, and artists can sell prints of their art, right? These are just examples. And if you do anything like that, then while you have the work time and the leisure time for most people, your leisure time is actually added into your work time and vice versa because you enjoy it so much. You naturally may have a higher threshold for your overwork and the burnout period and how long you can go without taking a break. Except something you may want to consider is that your overwork threshold and your burnout threshold, while it's higher, probably still exists. Everyone needs to rest, everyone needs to spend some time doing other things. So while it contextually may apply differently to you, it still applies to you and you may want to keep an eye on burnout. And that's just part of the journey. Health and being healthy is part of being productive and doing the extraordinary things that you want to do. I feel like I understate things sometimes, but health is literally the foundation for a lot of what we do. So try to be healthy. And that illustrates my next point, which is you can pretty much expect to be misunderstood, so you can prepare to be misunderstood. And there's a whole quote about how to be a genius is to be misunderstood, but to be misunderstood is not to be a genius. But I'm not even talking about your ability here. I'm just talking about people who want to do great things, achieve extraordinary things. And I do believe in being realistic about our abilities, but if this video reignites your passion to want to pursue something or at least try for something that you really want to do and you really think has the potential to be great, then I'm thrilled for you. That's all the better. But if you're aiming to achieve extraordinary things, then you're also aiming to achieve unusual things. And some people will be very understanding, and others may be a little bit less understanding. Some may even accuse you or bash you for what you're doing. And over time, there are two different paths, at least, that you can take. The first is what you see some people do, and that is to learn to ignore what others say. So when others laugh at you, when others don't understand, when others laugh at the work you're doing, when others laugh at the books you're reading, some people are just go, it's okay. I'll show them. I'll show all of them. I don't care. I will come back. I will be the most muscular gorilla. I will have the sweetest tasting banana. I will have the tallest growing tree. I'm looking at a tree. I will have the tallest growing tree, the most absorbent tissue paper, the most digestible sweet pea. There's a lot of food examples. I might be hungry. Those people are honestly sometimes kind of intense and scary for others. I like them. I'm okay with them and I understand them to some extent. That's fine, but if that's you, then you may want to build up that resistance. Prepare for what people might say and prepare to have the peace of mind to be able to not let it affect you too much. But the other thing that you can do, and these are two sides to a spectrum, kind of, is you can learn to communicate and tell others about what you're doing. And you can start with empathizing with what they're saying, understanding what they mean, and then saying, this is the context behind what I'm doing. The hard work is an example. You understand, and we understand, that working so hard that we're burning out and we're ignoring our families and we're ignoring our own health, that's generally bad, and ideally, we don't want these things. We want to work hard and be healthy. But we also understand, and we can contextualize for other people, that what we're doing is how we pursue happiness, is what we want to do, is one of our greatest passions, and we think can help people or inspire people depending on what you're doing. In this art form of communication, where you identify the disconnect between what you're saying and what people are hearing, and you add context to restore flow there, is one of the most beautiful things in life. You'll notice how some people respond when you tell them that you want to knit 1,000,000 sweaters or become the greatest skateboarder in the world. And if your answer is, I just want to, you may notice like, oh, some people understand, others don't. But then you explain how it came to be. You explain that you love seeing an idea or a trick or something that you visualize and you bring to life in reality, and then you accomplish it. And then you show it to other people and say, hey, look what I tried, look what I built, look what I did. Did you know this was possible? This was great. I was really excited about this. That is something that other people might respond more to. Over time, you can hone how you communicate your thoughts to others and help them better understand you, and you can better understand them. Or you can just ignore them. It really depends. And something that can help with that is to get around other people who who have been where you want to go or are going where you want to go. And in this sense, it can be very helpful for you to find a mentor. You want someone that has been ideally some of the places that you want to go, that knows more than you do about it and can guide you along your path. I'll use a YouTube example since this is going on YouTube and a lot of people will know this, but I'll use Mr. Beast as an example. He said having a mentor is like having cheat codes because someone can save you with literally just a few lines of guidance from making very costly mistakes, either millions of dollars or thousands or tens of thousands of hours, whichever you consider more valuable. If you find someone that you trust and they're willing to help you, you can benefit greatly from their experience. By the way, when I say mentor and coach, I mean that separate from the fundamental education that you get in order to do the things you need. So if you're an athlete, then you need the basic conditioning. That's separate from having a mentor and a coach. You might have a coach and trainer for that, but this is separate from what I mean. In business, this might be after you get up and going, as a general rule. Fundamental education is very important, but I'm referring here to someone who helps guide you after you have your foundation. And this actually leads into the next point, which you may not have to do right away, but you may want to prepare for. If you want to accomplish great things, new things, you usually have to have new thoughts. So as you're learning from these mentors, as you're learning from these coaches, you may want to keep in mind that eventually you'll want to think outside of the box. You'll want to formulate your own thesis on how to be great. There's a saying, replicate before you iterate. So when you're learning from this mentor, they may tell you their path. They may tell you, hey, don't do this because it cost me a lot of money and time. Do this because it really benefited me. And as you do these things, some of these things will work well for you. And if you have a good mentor, hopefully a lot of them will work well for you. But as you're going through this and you're forming your own experience, you will notice a few things like, this worked well, but that worked well for my mentor, my teacher, but it didn't work that well for me. And I wonder why. And as you continue to gather this information, you will have context into that situation. You will say, maybe, and to use a music reference, maybe writing his own songs worked really well for him. But for me, I'm much better at singing or playing guitar, and I want to hire a songwriter. And this way, I can reach my maximum potential and really hone in on what I'm good at, what I'm talented at. So yes, while you're following and leading, the entire time you're formulating new ideas and possibly preparing to blaze a new trail. And lastly, as you're blazing this new trail, I'm sure some of you may have realized, either through your own experience or while watching this video and reflecting, that it can be lonely sometimes. It can be lonely trying to do new things. We're misunderstood, we're laughed at. Even the idea of, I want to do great things, I want to do extraordinary things, me putting that as a title, whatever the title is, some people will laugh at that. Right? I'm not even claiming that I have done great things. I just want to try to do good things to help other people. Not everyone understands that immediately. Some people don't understand after you explain. And this is coupled with repeated failure. Now, hopefully micro failures, meaning a failure within the scope of a day and not the failure of your overall mission. But on your path to tremendous success, you will probably have a lot of small failures and losses along the way. It's just usually how it works. And hopefully you can learn from these and grow and help others as you mentor other people. But failures and a little bit of loneliness can sometimes be part of the path. So I recommend having a system to reconcile and face these insecurities and fears that come up. For some people, it's simple as finding a good therapist. Now I say simple kind of hesitantly because sometimes it can be a long process. Some people find a great therapist that they can work with right away. Some people don't prefer to have a therapist and they just want to talk with friends or a spouse or a partner. Different things may work better for different people, but I recommend finding some type of system, either internal or external, to deal with the fears and insecurities and self-doubts that you'll encounter along the way. That way they don't build up. And I'm actually writing a book about this. This is a system that I've developed and used for myself that is about mental fitness. And it talks about developing traits and abilities like self-awareness, introspection, humility, and accountability, which are all things that I develop and use for my own internal thoughts to get to a healthier place. The example that I've been using is if I or someone has an insecurity about, say, bad grades. So with honesty and introspection and self-awareness, I would ask, do I actually have bad grades? And this may depend on where the insecurity stemmed from. Maybe it was a snide comment from a friend. Because if the answer is no, and you have the self-awareness to realize, no, I have very reasonable grades, especially because I'm also working full-time, then don't worry about it. However, if you do have lower grades than you think you could, then accountability can help us ask, if I do have low grades or lower than they should be, is it my fault? And is there anything I can do to improve that situation? Because once again, the answer might be no. You might already be studying and doing everything that you can for your grades. But there is something you can do, and there's usually something you can tweak. Then honesty can help you state, yes, my grades are a bit low. However, I decided I'm going to study a little bit more. I'm going to try this new method. I'm going to ask a friend to help tutor me. So while my grades are currently low, I am working on it to try to get better. And it's a simple example, but you see how it goes from an insecure statement of, oh no, I have bad grades, to a confident statement of, yes, I do have bad grades or they're lower, but I'm working on them to improve. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone, but either way, I recommend having a system, whether external, someone that you talk to, or internal, a system like that that can help you process your thoughts and emotions. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in the book, I'm still writing it, but I'll put a link in the description where you can sign up to get updates. I don't send that many, but I'll let you know when it's out. We have a fitness book, free fitness routine, and an app if you're interested. Have a beautiful day.